Hello students, can you hear me? Yeah, what about others? Can you see my screen? Okay, so hello, can you hear me, Bhavana? Okay, can you hear me now? Bhavana, can you hear me? Okay. Harshal Patel. Harshal Patel, log in with another browser. Your audio is not enabled. Okay. So let us start today's class. In today's class, we'll try to discuss how to use multiple BAPIs, and let us understand how to pass the input to the BAPI with a mapping technique. How to use multiple BAPIs with single entity set. We can use multiple BAPIs with single entity set if the output of both the BAPIs are having same structure. If the output of both the BAPIs are having same structure, then we can make use of multiple BAPIs with single entity set. So, and this is one point you are going to understand after today's class, and then you'll understand how to pass input to BAPI with mapping technique. So these two things you will understand in today's class. So first of all, let me open the BAPIs which are having same structures for both the BAPIs. So if you closely observe a BAPI, that is BAPI EPM, BAPI EPM product get detail is one of the BAPI, and we are going to use BAPI EPM product get list. So let us analyze these two BAPIs now. So let me log into that system. So I'm going to SC37 to analyze the behavior of those two BAPIs. So one of the BAPI is BAPI EPM product get detail. BAPI EPM product get detail is one of the BAPI here. Let me just open that parameters. Let me open those parameters, and you can see here under importing section, you can see product ID. Product ID is one of the input parameter, and it is a mandatory parameter for this BAPI. Product ID is a mandatory parameter for this BAPI here. And you can see BAPI EPM get detail will provide product header records, product header data by using header data parameter. If you provide product ID, based on product ID, it will send product header record. So it can send single record at a time. Based on the product ID, it can send single product header record by using this BAPI. But if you closely observe this BAPI, BAPI contains a BAPI EPM product header as one of the structure. BAPI EPM product header is one of the structures used in this particular get detail BAPI to get product header data based on product ID. So first of all, let me write some description here. So this BAPI will fetch product header data record based on input product ID. So just remember that. And let us see how exactly it works. You can see now. Let me just try to execute that BAPI once. And you can see here product ID is the input. So let me provide some product ID, for example, HT-1001. HT-1001, let me execute. And you can see there is a single record based on that HT-1001. There is a single record here. You can see that. Weight measurement, price, currency, width, dimension, etc., product category, product name, everything is available here. You can see that. But it always displays single record based on the product ID. And you can see here, there is one more BAPI, that is BAPI EPM product get list. So let us understand its behavior. So this BAPI will fetch all product header data, all products header data, and input is not mandatory here. Whenever you execute this BAPI, it always fetches all product header data. So first let me open the second BAPI in SC37. BAPI EPM product get list. So let me go to importing option here. I'm going to importing option, and under importing option, none of the parameter is mandatory here. None of the parameter is mandatory under importing option. So max rows is just an optional one. Max rows is just a optional one. Hello, who is this Hemant? Please try to log in with actual names so that we can run the training smoothly. Please try to log in with your actual names. Hemant, someone connected with Hemant as user ID. Okay, so if you closely observe this getList BAPI, and getList BAPI contains a tables parameter, and it is going to send all product header data by using this header data parameter, but it also has the same structure, BAPI EPM product header. The first BAPI, second BAPI is having same structure here, BAPI EPM product header. One BAPI is going to take the input and it will give specific product header data. Another BAPI is going to provide all product header data. But in both the cases, I can say BAPI EPM product header, that is the structure used here. So in those type of situations, you can use a single entity set for getting specific data or getting all the records. So let me write a note here. In the above two BAPIs, the output structure is common. That is both BAPIs are using same output structure. That is BAPI EPM product header. That is BAPI EPM product header. That's the structure used here. So whenever there is a common output structure, in that situation, you can use a single entity set. That is the point I want to convey here. You need not create multiple entity sets. You can satisfy with single entity set whenever there is a common output structure between two or more BAPIs. So now let us use both the BAPIs and let us fetch single record based on input and let us fetch all records without input. But I want to use both BAPIs, and my main intention is to explain how can we use single entity set. My main intention is to explain how to use single entity set when there are two or more BAPIs with common structure. So let me write a note here. If there is a common output structure for two or more BAPIs, then we can make use of both functionalities with single entity set. then we can make use of both the functionalities with a single entity set. So let us develop that one now. I'm going to SEGW here. I'm going to SEGW T code. So first of all, let us create a project. Let us use a project. Let us create a project. So after this, okay, let me write step by step here. So step one, you can create a project here with the default settings in SEAT, in SEGW T code. Step two, we are going to create entity type and entity set with DDIC structure equal to, for example, BAPI EPM product header. I want to create entity type, entity set with DDIC structure that is BAPI EPM product header, because this is the structure used by both the BAPIs to fetch the data. So let us do that. You can right-click data model. You can right-click data model and you can import DDIC structure here. And I'm creating, for example, product. Product is the entity type I want to create here. Product is the entity type I'm trying to create. And ABAP structure you can use, for example, BAPI EPM product header. That is the structure we are using. BAPI EPM product header. And while creating entity type, let us create entity set as well. And here you can see there are several fields: height, depth, width, price, currency, then weight measurement, supplier ID, supplier name, some description. So there are several things like this. So whichever fields you want, you can select here. Whichever fields you want, you can select here and just click on next here. And when you're creating entity type, at least one field must be key field. So you can use that. I'm selecting product ID as a key field here. So then you will get entity type and entity set. Entity type contains all the output fields. Entity type, entity set, and you will get all the fields gathered from DDIC structure. And now what you can do is, you can see product is the entity type, product set is the entity set. Product set is entity set, product is entity type. So now I want to use both these BAPIs. I want to use both these BAPIs with mapping technique. Then what you can do is you can just go to service implementation here. You can go to service implementation. Under service implementation, what you can do is you can get these things: entity set, single entity set contains 5 CRUD methods here. 5 CRUD methods here. And what I want to do is I want to use get entity method. I want to maintain mapping for get entity method, and I want to access BAPI EPM product get detail. I want to maintain mapping between get entity method and BAPI EPM product get detail. And similarly, for second, there is one more method, that is get entity set. For get entity set, I want to maintain mapping with BAPI EPM like product get list. This is for second method, that is get entity set method I want to use. So one entity set can have mappings between one entity set can have mappings with different BAPIs. One entity set can have mappings with different BAPIs. So you can also assume that note. If required, not in all cases, whenever there is a common structure, then this is possible. So if required, we can maintain mapping with multiple BAPIs with single entity set. With multiple BAPIs with single entity set. So how to do that? We can maintain mapping with multiple BAPIs with single entity set. So let me do that. Just expand service implementation. Under that, what you can do is right-click get entity method here. You can right-click get entity method, and you can map to data source. You can map to data source, and our BAPI is nothing but like a remote function call. And you can provide our BAPI name. First BAPI, I want to use BAPI EPM product get detail. First BAPI EPM product get detail. So now you'll get these things. So here you can see there is a product ID as input, header data is output. Product ID is the input, header data is the output. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to maintain output mapping. So you can directly click on propose mapping here. You can directly click on propose mapping between entity set and header data of BAPI. So you'll get all these things here. So output mapping is done now for this BAPI. Output mapping is done between entity set and get detail BAPI, but detail BAPI is expecting some input. Don't forget that. So you can see here, this is output mapping, but output mapping is maintained with this header data output. But the point here is you can see under get detail BAPI, there is a product ID which is the mandatory input. Under get detail BAPI, product ID is the mandatory input. So how to maintain mapping with this input? So it's very simple. What you need to do is just click on create button here. You can click on create button, or you can click on add button here and choose product ID. You can choose product ID here from our entity type. We are just gathering the fields from entity type. And what you do is you have to maintain mapping for input. Output mapping is done with this BAPI, but you have to maintain mapping with input. So that's the reason why you can select product ID. You can select product ID and you can drag drop here. Product ID is the input from the BAPI. So when you drag drop, you'll get a arrow mark as input. You can see the difference now. So let me repeat this. Just click on add button here and choose product ID field from the entity type. After that, go to get detail BAPI product ID, because get detail BAPI product ID is mandatory input. So drag drop here. So now input mapping is done. Earlier we have completed with output mapping. So this is how a BAPI can take the input and BAPI can give the output when you maintain mapping. Mapping is possible when you try to maintain mapping with input with respect to input, you can get the output as well. So if you closely observe the screen, you can see now this is the input mapping for product ID here. And you can see these are all output mappings. These are all output mappings between these fields and your P header data fields. So there is a input mapping and there is a output mapping here with all these fields. So in our previous examples, I maintained a mapping just with output, but in this class you will understand how to use a BAPI with input and output in mapping. So that's the procedure you have to follow. So this is a technique you have to follow. Okay, let me write those steps. Right click, get entity method, and choose map to data source. Choose map to data source. Select remote function call equal to BAPI EPM product and what you need to do. Maintain mapping between entity set and header data of BAPI. So this is for output. This is for output mapping. And maintain mapping. So after this, what you do is just add product ID field and drag drop product ID from get detail BAPI. So you can easily understand with this. Add product ID field and drag drop product ID from get detail BAPI. So this is for input. So input mapping, output mapping is done in these last two steps. Input mapping, output mapping is done in these last two steps. And you can save it. So this is what we have done. So no problem, no errors. So there is an input mapping, there is output mapping. Now what you can do is, I want to use another BAPI which will get all product header records. So in that case, you can right click get entity set method here. I want to execute another BAPI which will fetch all header records. So you can right click get entity set method and map to data source. Right click get entity set method, map to data source. So you can choose that as remote function call and provide the second BAPI name, BAPI EPM product get list. So this is the second BAPI name, BAPI EPM product get list. And it will open another screen here. And you can see now, for second BAPI, input is optional. For second BAPI, input is optional, so directly click on propose mapping with header data output. You can choose propose mapping with header data output of a BAPI with entity set here, so it automatically maintain mapping with matching fields. It will maintain mapping, output mapping with matching fields here between entity set and BAPI. So getlist BAPI is just sending output record, so you can just click on propose mapping. So whichever fields are matching with entity set and BAPI, so it will maintain mapping automatically if you click on propose mapping. You need not drag each and everything. When the structures in the entity, when the fields in the entity set and when the structure in the BAPI are same, just click on propose mapping. So this BAPI is not expecting any mandatory input, so you can just provide output mappings only here. But forget, in both these cases, single entity set is used. For first BAPI and second BAPI, in both these cases, single entity set is used. Please notice that. Because output structure fields of both the BAPIs are common. So let me save it and let me write here. Step 4, right click, get entity set method, right click get entity set method and choose map to data source. And you can select remote function call with another BAPI name, that is BAPI EPM product get list. Get detail, now this is get list. And then what you do is maintain mapping between entity set and header data of BAPI. That is going to maintain just output because input is optional. Then after this, we maintain mapping between one entity set and two BAPIs. So whatever you do it like this, but ultimately when you are using a mapping, ultimately after mapping we have to generate runtime objects. You do whatever you want, but ultimately generate runtime objects. So the code will be auto-generated according to the mapping which you maintain. Ultimately, you need to generate runtime objects. So according to mapping, the code will be auto-generated. Now generate runtime objects. So according to mapping, the code is auto-generated. And step 6, register the service. Step 7, open gateway client and test the service. Open gateway client and test the service. So let us see what is happening. So I'm just trying to click on generate runtime objects. So you will get this screen. After that, you can see you'll get all your runtime classes here. You'll get all runtime classes here. So the code will be auto-generated in these classes. So directly go to service maintenance and then register the service. This is a routine process. And you can choose a local category here. And don't forget to save it in package. In real time, save it in package. Now you can go to gateway client in order to test it. So here you can see, let me select the entity set. I'm selecting entity set, so that is nothing but product set. Product set is the entity set. So if I directly provide product set, definitely it is going to execute get entity set method. It is going to execute get entity set method. Let me summarize these options here. If you provide like this, it executes get entity set method. And internally, it executes your BAPI EPM product get list. If you do like this. And say, for example, if I provide a URL slightly in a different manner, I want to provide a URL in a different manner. For example, in the bracket, if I use like, what is a field name? Let me check here. So product ID, if I use this in the URL equal to, for example, HT-1001, then it executes. If you do like this, it executes get entity method. And internally, it executes BAPI EPM product get detail. It executes get entity method and internally it executes BAPI EPM product get detail. So that is how the things will work according to this scenario. So let me test it now. So I'm just providing entity set name on execute. There is some problem. Let me check what is the problem. is some problem with width and etc. I think it is not taking properly, so I'll just try to remove that. We can troubleshoot that later. And let me update here. There is some problem with width. So I just removed it to go to run the scenario smoothly. But you just check, go to that error log and try to verify in detail. This is okay. Then let me go to this mapping. Just save it. Just save it, and you can see mapping must contain constant value. Okay, width, we have removed that width, so I'm deleting that from here. So now there is no error. I removed width. I got some problem with width, so I removed from entity type. So I have removed from mapping as well. But what you do is just go to the error log and try to find out what went wrong. Okay, but let us run the scenario smoothly now, and let us regenerate here. I'm just trying to regenerate those things. So definitely according to the latest metadata, you'll get your records. Open gateway client. So whenever you make changes in the metadata, it is always recommended to go to this metadata and clean up cache from both systems here. Earlier there is a width field, but now that width field is not available. So there is some change in metadata. Whenever there is a change in metadata, in order to run the scenario smoothly, just clean up that cache memory. Just clean up that cache memory, and let us execute with that entity set name. You can choose that entity set name, that is product set. And when you click on execute here, still there is a problem. Okay, there is some inconsistency with the decimal fields. Okay, just let me delete this total project and let me redo that again. I'm just trying to redo again, just observe. I'm doing it as it is again. So here, I'm selecting the required fields. I'm selecting some required fields. But I think there is some problem with these quantity fields. Just try to go to error log and verify. Spend some time to rectify that. But at present, I'm just using product ID, category name, description, supplier ID, supplier name, price. And I'm making product ID as key field, same like our previous case. Then now you can see here, there is an entity type, entity set. Now you can go to service maintenance. Go to service maintenance, right click, get entity method, map to data source. So choose remote function call, get detail BAPI, and what you can do is you can just try to propose mapping. You can go for propose mapping, and most importantly, you can add one more. This is for providing the input. I'm selecting product ID, that is, we are adding the next product ID just because to satisfy this input here. So now there is an input and output mapping. Now there is an input and output mapping. And then let us go to get entity set here. Again, map to data source with another BAPI. That is get list BAPI we are using. And what you can do is just click on propose mapping, so it will try to maintain mapping with the matching fields. It will maintain mapping with the matching fields. But for second BAPI, I did not provide any input mapping. So please notice that. And let us, there is no syntax error. Now let us click on generate runtime objects. Runtime objects, and the code will be auto generated, and just directly go to. So now just observe here in the diagram, if you closely observe, so there is a mapping for get entity and there's a mapping with get entity set. You can see that. You'll get these symbols. So just try to register the service. Then just go to gateway client in order to test the service. So let me provide some entity set name. So product set is the entity set I'm using. Let me try to execute once. So this time there is no problem. So that means there is some problem. Earlier there is a problem with height and width properties. But now I am able to get the records, and we're able to get all product header records here. ST1000, ST1001, ST1002. So we are able to get all product header records here. ST1007, etc. So we are able to get all product header records because it is internally executing get entity set method, and get entity set method is executing get list BAPI. Now say for example, if I provide in the bracket, if I provide something like product ID. Product ID is a key field in entity type, so you can provide product ID equal to, I want to get a specific record. So you can use something like HT-1001. That record I want to fetch. So let me execute. Now when you execute, so we are able to get only that specific record now. So I mean to say, if you provide input here in this scenario, get entity method is executed, get entity method is executing get detail BAPI. Get entity is executed and get entity will execute get detail BAPI. So we are able to get that specific record now. Now similarly, if I provide, for example, 1009, product ID HT-1009, so there is no record In that case, so let me try with other options like 1003. So there is a record, HT1003 notebooks is the category. So you can see some description, supplier name, supplier ID, price 1650, etc. So we are getting that specific record if the record is available in the database table. So the main intention of this scenario is just to make you understand how entity set can be utilized. There is no other intention. The only intention of this scenario is just to make you understand how exactly entity set can be used for mappings multiple times with multiple BAPIs. Okay, so please notice that. Now, say for example, I want to apply the same concept, one entity set with multiple BAPIs I want to use, but without mapping. So now what we have done here is, if required, we can develop the above scenario. We can develop the above scenario without mapping. So in that case, what you need to do? In that case, you need to open data provider extension class. So you have to write this type of code. Open get entity method. You have to open get entity method, and in that you have to write the code by calling a function, by calling, just I'm giving the hint, BAPI underscore EPM product get detail. You can call that function. Similarly, you can open get entity set method of DPC extension class, and you have to call the function that is BAPI EPM product get list. BAPI EPM product get list. And just satisfy the parameters. So what I mean to say is, the above scenario which we have understood, one entity set with multiple BAPIs. One entity set with multiple BAPIs can also be done without mapping, just by writing the code inside data provider extension class. In DPC extension class, just open get entity method, call this first BAPI, and open get entity set method and call the second BAPI. So we are calling first BAPI here in one of the method, and we are calling second BAPI in another method. So as a developer, you are responsible to write the code explicitly if you are not using mapping. That is the point. So just try to go through this scenario. The only intention of this scenario is to make you understand how can we use a single entity set for mappings with multiple BAPIs. Okay. So what I'll do is just practice this for today. Today's doubts and tomorrow's doubt I'll try to clarify in tomorrow's class itself. Okay. I'm not that comfortable. I'm not feeling well. So today's doubts and tomorrow's doubts I'll satisfy tomorrow. Okay. Hello students, are you getting my point?
Okay, sir.
Okay. Okay. Okay, students, so you can leave now. Okay.
Okay, sir. Thank you.
వీళ్ళకి ఎక్కడ రాదు.
Okay, sir. Thank you, sir.